Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? Are you serious? Get some coffee. Everybody calm down a minute. Are you serious? This is going to be a very important. Are you serious? Get some coffee. Everybody calm down a minute. Right, just calm down. This is a very important video. Please listen to me. The man behind my shoulder wants to rule Jerusalem and has put himself in a powerful position to where he thinks he can achieve it. I'll tell you, as he met President Joe Biden yesterday. They met yesterday. I want to tell you what happened. All right, first of all, mypillow.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. There's a reason for that. There's some of the best deals ever Mike Lindell has put together for the MyPillow for all of you who are members of the Paul Begley Prophecy Ministry. He has put together, and all of you who are watching this video, everybody who wants to go to this link right now. Go to www.mypillow.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. You guys know these pillows are beautiful. These pillows are so soft. I got them on every bed in my home. It's the only thing that ever allowed me to sleep after breaking my neck 30 years ago, pain-free. This is the first pillow that finally works. Plus, I love the fact that it's so soft, comfy, yet firm enough to protect my neck and stays cool. You don't have to keep flipping the pillow because you get hot. It's incredible. Thank you, Mike. Over at www.mypillow.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. That's www.mypillow.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. You'll be glad you did. It's a great pillow. Now, what's going on with the king? King Abdullah II, the king of Jordan. Well, let's start with, I want to tell you why. First of all, he is the king of Jordan. He is a direct descendant of the prophet Muhammad, and he is a direct descendant of the Hashmonite kingdom of the Bible. So this is a very, very important man in biblical terms, prophetic terms, and in today's geopolitical terms. Now, let's talk about the meeting he had with Joe Biden. According to reports coming out of Israeli 24 News, Biden calls for maintaining the Temple Mount status quo. You say, what does that mean? Okay. Well, what it means is simply this. He is saying we literally don't need to change anything, but keep everything as it is. Okay. Keep everything as it is. Well, there's a problem with that. Okay, there's a big problem with that because the Temple Mount is right now still under the control of the Kingdom of Jordan. And this man right here really is still in charge of it. And there's a reason he gets to be. And we're gonna look at that in just a second. But he met with Joe Biden earlier, and they had a significant discussion. And let me just say, anytime that this happens, when you have leaders get together, it's quite significant the things that come out of it. Here's what we do know. The Temple Mount was absolutely discussed, as you knew it would. It's amazing that this is all happening right now with Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, over in Egypt, then over in Ramallah talking to, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. He was in Egypt talking to President El-Sisi. He went to Israel, met with Benjamin Netanyahu, and then he was flying out to other areas there. And at the same time he's doing all that, Netanyahu now is over in Paris meeting with Emmanuel Macron. While that's going on, the King of Jordan is in Washington meeting with President Joe Biden. Do you think that that's just an accident that all those meetings are happening right now? No. It's extraordinary what's happening right now. The meeting between Biden and King Abdullah II of Jordan. Joe Biden calls for maintaining the Temple Mount status quo alongside Jordan's king. In other words, Jews not be allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Christians not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Jews allowed to visit, but discouraged. U.S. President Joe Biden reaffirmed his support for maintaining the legal status quo of Jerusalem's Temple Mount compound in a meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah II. Biden and the king and Jordan's Crown Prince Hassan bin Abdullah met at the White House, where they had a private lunch. According to an official statement, the U.S. leader reaffirmed the close, enduring nature of the friendship between the United States and Jordan. Now, speaking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Biden reiterated Washington's strong support for a two-state solution. So here we go. He also thanked King Abdullah for his close partnership and the role he and Jordan play as a force for stability in the Middle East. Returning to tensions around the Temple Mount, ignited by the recent visit to the holy site of Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, Biden underlined the critical need to preserve the historic status quo. He also emphasized Jordan's crucial role as the custodian of the Muslim holy place in Jerusalem, the White House statement added. The two leaders also spoke on the phone with Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to reaffirm the U.S. commitment to Iraq. Biden and Sudani stressed the commitment to preventing the Islamic State, or ISIS, extremist group from threatening the Iraqi people or regional and international security. King Abdullah, in turn, stressed Jordan's support for Iraq, including through joint strategic infrastructure projects. So, the status quo, bottom line, status quo. Keep it in play. And even though Israel's new Interior Defense Minister, Ben-Gvir, even though Ben-Gvir visited the Temple Mount just for 13 minutes and just walked around and then left, everybody thought World War III was going to happen. It hasn't. It's just a Jewish man who had not been allowed to walk up there finally got to go. And because of his position as a defense minister there in Israel, it set off alarm bells everywhere that Israel was trying to do a hostile takeover of the Temple Mount or what have you. It's quite interesting. But why is this so important to King Abdullah II? We have to look into history on that. His grandfather, who was the king of Jordan, was assassinated on the Temple Mount. He was assassinated on the Temple Mount in July of 1951. And this was a very volatile time in Jerusalem and in the world. Remember, in 1951, Israel became a nation on May 14th, 1948. Jordan then, King Abdullah II, his grandfather, annexed the entire West Bank and said it belonged to Jordan. So he just went and took it. He did that. Israel was a nation in 1948, and a year later, Jordan just grabs half of the land of Israel and says that the entire hills of Judea and Samaria belong to Jordan, and that it was under his control. Well, 2 years later, King Abdullah II, his grandfather, went up on the Temple Mount up here and was standing in front, coming out of the Al-Aqsa Mosque entrance. As he was coming out, he was assassinated. He was shot and killed, shot 3 times, by a Palestinian, a young man, who shot and killed him. Now, also, King Abdullah II's father was only 17 years old at the time, was standing right next to his father, the king, and one of the bullets that his father, the king was shot 3 times and killed, and another bullet hit the son, who was the crown prince, hit him in the chest, but he was wearing a medal, and that medal deflected the bullet, thus preventing the young man at 17 years old from being killed. He then became king of Jordan, but not after a group of people within the Hashmonite kingdom and the kingdom of Jordan tried to put him in a mental institution, saying that he had gone insane for 3 months, and they chose his brother Tal to be the new king, or they made him the regent. In other words, ruling in replace of the king. But after Abdullah got out of the mental institution, he went back to Jordan and he took his throne. That is King Abdullah's father, and he ruled there. And so now this is 1951. But 1967, we know what happens. The 6-Day War, where these nations decide to attack Israel. And they are Egypt and Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and the Palestinians living in Jerusalem. It was a multi-Arabic attack on the Jews and the city of Jerusalem and the nation of Israel. But Israel defeated them in a 6-day war in 1967 and took back the annexed West Bank from Jordan, took it back. And so Israel was now in possession of the entire Judea, Samaria, that entire area, the West Bank. Also, Israel took back half of the city of Jerusalem that was under the control of the Hashmonite kingdom. King Abdullah's daddy, who was in charge. They took back half of that. They took back the city, in other words. And they even went up on top of the Temple Mount, and they took control of the Temple Mount. So Israel was in control of it all, 1967. But a ton of pressure was put on this young nation. Israel only being 19 years old, and though they defeated all their enemies in 6 days, they got a ton of pressure from the world, from the United Nations, from the United States, from Great Britain, from all the Arab nations that Israel had just defeated. The outcry was Israel cannot have control of the Temple Mount. They cannot be in charge of it. So a deal was made, and it's called the status quo. And Jordan was given the opportunity to be the custodian or the managers of that holy site, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is and where the Dome of the Rock is, up on the Temple Mount. Now, the Temple Mount's so important to the Jews because that's where first of all, that's where Abraham offered Isaac to the Lord. It's also where King Solomon built the first temple, and the Holy of Holies was there, and the Ark of the Covenant, and God dwelt upon the mountain. It's also the location of the second temple built by King Herod, where Jesus would walk into the temple, started teaching at the age of 12, went back and preached there in the temple, healed the sick outside, all around there, taught on the streets, right there in Jerusalem. But it's also the location that the Islamic faith, 600 years later, decided is where the Prophet Muhammad was carried away into heaven on a white horse. Thus, it's an important location for the 3 religions of the Abrahamic faith: Christians, Jews, and Muslims. So how come King of Jordan still gets to be? Why does he get to be in charge of the Temple Mount? Well, his grandfather was assassinated there, the King of Jordan. on the steps, on the threshold of the Al-Alas Mosque in 1951. And King Abdullah II behind me there is the 40th generation descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. His grandfather, who was assassinated, was the 38th generation. His father, who died a few years ago, was the 39th. And he is the 40th. And you got to understand, 40, the number 40 in that world, the Arabic world, is a unbelievable sacred number. 40 years Moses lived in Egypt before he had to flee after he killed an Egyptian that was beating an Israeli. 40 years later, Moses was sent back by God from the burning bush. He was sent to go back and set the children of Israel free. 40 years, the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness after crossing the Red Sea before they could go into the Canaan land. 40 generations. The Prophet Muhammad, 40 generations later, the man over my shoulder is the direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad and the direct descendant of the king of the Hashmonite kingdom of the Bible. He happens to be the man in charge of the Temple Mount, where the main religions of the world are converging. It's the spiritual capital of the world. It's Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, the Temple Mount is the absolute most sacred location for all three religions. And what are the odds that in this year, that King Abdullah II, the 40th descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, the direct descendant of the Hashmonite kingdom, the king of Jordan, is in charge of the Temple Mount, was in the White House yesterday, and all the other world leaders are all moving around, meeting with each other, and Iran is threatening to conquer the Holy Land, Iran threatening to go to war with Israel, to take the city of Jerusalem. And they have teamed up with the Russians, who have also already moved into Ukraine and are trying to take over Ukraine and as much of Europe as they can, and are willing to team up with the Iranians and now Turkey to make a move on Jerusalem, which is exactly what the Bible says is going to happen in Ezekiel 38. But it also says that when they do, they will meet their demise in Ezekiel 39. They will be defeated for trying to do it. Still, you start looking at all of the potential players involved in all of this. Now, you know the British Mandate ended in 1917. That's after the Ottoman Empire had been in charge of Jerusalem for 400 years. The British Mandate was kicked in 1917. That lasted for 30 years until it ended in 1947 after World War II, and the United Nations had been established, and then we had all this stuff going on. I mean, we had, Jordan getting its complete independence away from the Britain in 1947. We have Taiwan getting their independence from China, 1949. We have India getting its independence from the British Empire, 1948. We have Israel becoming a nation, getting out from underneath the British mandate and becoming a nation, 1948. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's incredible, all of the different shifting and changing and positioning and reshaping the world that took place 75 years ago. Here we are now. The same conversations that went on 75 years ago are being discussed today. It's about global power. It's about spiritual kingdoms. It's about lineages and bloodlines and biblical royalty, about monarchies and kingdoms and peace accords. Now, let's talk about that because, and if it's all right, I'd like to go there just for a second. So, why is it so important to King Abdullah? Well, his grandfather was assassinated there, but that's more than just that. It's his royalty. Jordan's King Abdullah II said Jerusalem for the kingdom of Jordan and for his Hashmonite family has never been a political matter, he says, but rather is linked to them personally. It's a personal thing. It's a religious thing even. This came in the keynote address he delivered at the National Prayer Breakfast yesterday morning in Washington, D.C. He said it's not political. It is personal. More than 100 years ago, he said, we carried the Hashmonite custodianship trust over Islamic and Christian holy places in Jerusalem. He said, recalling the martyrdom of his grandfather, Abdullah bin al-Hussein I, on the threshold of the Al-Alas Mosque, and the survival of his late father, al-Hussein, from that incident, as I told you, was hit and a medal was on his chest, the only thing saved him. And the impact of that day in July of 1951 on him himself, which made him devote his entire life, he said, to working to achieve peace, even during his struggle with cancer. He pointed to Jordan's continued insistence on working for peace, stressing that there is always an opportunity for peace. The truth is that the various peoples of the Middle East have lived throughout their history in harmony for much longer periods than they spent in rivalry, he said, referring to spaces for constructive dialogue, such as the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C., which brings together intellectual and political leaders of different religions and beliefs as one of the important initiatives to achieve this by promoting mutual respect and human dignity. On October 26, 1994, Jordan and Israel signed a Arabic treaty. On March 13th, King Abdullah II, of March of 2013, King Abdullah II and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas signed an agreement giving Jordan the rights to guardianship and defense of Jerusalem and Muslim and Christian sanctities in Palestine. Now that happened in 2013. So listen to me. King Abdullah II here believes that Jerusalem is his responsibility to defend. He believes that the Temple Mount is his calling, destiny to manage. So this man has more skin in the game than what you think. And this agreement he signed with the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, Abbas was saying, you're really in charge of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. As long as you're in charge of the Temple Mount, you truly are the spiritual leader of Jerusalem. Now that's what is in the heart and soul of King Abdullah. But let's talk about the Abraham Accords. They really all started in 1979 when the first peace agreement was signed between Israel and Egypt. And then in 1994, that peace agreement was signed between Jordan and Israel. Okay? And then, of course, 2020, when Trump come along and got these other nations to sign on. Let's talk about it. Trump was able to get Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, and Sudan to all sign the Abraham Accords, making it 6 nations, plus Israel, the 7th nation, are in peace with each other. Now, let's talk about this. Negotiated by President Donald Trump's administration and signed in September of 2020 by Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, and later joined by Sudan and Morocco. The Abraham Accords were the first successful peace overtures since Israel signed peace agreements with Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. Further integrating of Israel into the region is vital given to the threats posed by Iran and its proxy networks in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. Headlines week after week document drone and missile attacks from the Houthis in Yemen and Iranian proxies in Iraq targeting cities in Saudi Arabia, and most recently the United Arab Emirates. These attacks complement Iran's proxy shadow war strategy to threaten the United States and its allies in the Persian Gulf, in Iraq, and in Syria. And with the help of the Abraham Accords, Israel and the United States and its Arab allies are developing new ways to deter Iran's aggression. Israel's admittance into the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility has allowed for better integration of intelligence capabilities, technical expertise, and security systems with the Abraham Accord countries and others under the umbrella of CENTCOM, including Saudi Arabia. As recently as February 2nd, Israel participated in a naval exercise that included Saudi Arabia. And this would have been inconceivable even a few years ago. But back in November, Israel and United Arab Emirates, state-owned defense companies, signed a deal to jointly develop semi to fully autonomous naval vessels to combat Iranian anti-ship mines at sea. There are reports that Israel is currently negotiating an agreement with the UAE to sell Israeli air defense technology to better deter the Houthi attacks. These security agreements aren't the only areas in which strides have been made. There's also been fruit on the investment side by the CEO of Dubai. FDI has stated that a dozen projects ranging from healthcare, insurance, and finance have been brought to Dubai from Israel, totaling $250 million in investments. That's huge. Since President Donald Trump's departure, Joe Biden's team has failed to make progress on the Abraham Accords, despite its initial pledge that it would support and expand the Accords to other Arab nations. But lackluster promotion, no desire at all to help move along the Abraham Accords, Biden has missed an opportunity for his administration to strengthen the U.S. ties in a region that are vital to the U.S. national interest. And in the absence of active leadership, Congress has stepped forward to champion the Accords themselves by creating the Abraham Accords Caucus. This caucus is a bipartisan group chaired by Senator James Lankford, a Republican of Oklahoma, and Jackie Rosen, a Democrat of Nevada. That works with members in both the House and the Senate to promote the Abraham Accords. The caucus sends a clear signal to Israel and its new Arab allies that Congress is committed to advancing these relationships with or without the Biden administration's support. Most importantly, the caucus provides a platform for Congress to demonstrate its bipartisan support of the state of Israel. And over the past few years, Representative Rashid Tlaib of Michigan and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, both Democrats, and other progressive members of the Democrat Party have put pressure on party leadership to adopt an anti-Israeli stance, something that the Democratic base has started to reflect. A poll taken last summer showed that 51% of the Democrats think that the United States provides too much support for Israel. And with the delay by progressive members of Congress in the House to vote to replenish the Iron Dome, continued bipartisan support of Israel is even more important. The Abraham Accords have created a new defense, investment, and political opportunities for the United States to bring together its Arab partners and Israel, something that will have to be beneficial and to impact on the region as it faces enormous pressure by Iran and its proxies and its alliances, including Russia. Well, guys, this is I want to give you just a historical account how that the man over my shoulder, when you start looking at different important individuals in the world and roles they play and why they become so important. Jordan is not the largest country in the Middle East. It has financial difficulties. It's been there forever, and it's had its ups and downs and transfer of power and all kinds of different things. But at the end of the day, because of the bloodline, because of the historical bloodline of the Hashmonite kingdom, along with now, 1,200 years of the bloodline of the Prophet Muhammad, and all of it falling on this one man's shoulders. And the fact his grandfather was assassinated on the Temple Mount, right at the door of the mosque, he now feels this divine call to be the defender of the Temple Mount, and he actually the defender of Jerusalem itself. Now, will this come into play? You guarantee it. There's no way there's going to be a change in the status quo on the Temple Mount without the King Abdullah II's participation in some way or another. Unless it's totally done by force. Unless it's done by force or there's a war that causes a change in the status quo. Something will have to give. And there's too many people who have devoted their life one way or the other to see change take place. There are Jews who truly believe they must build the third temple, and there are Palestinians who truly believe that Jerusalem should not be, there should not be a state called Israel. There are radical jihadis who truly believe that the nation of Israel should be completely annihilated. And at the same time, there are the British, the Americans, the Russians, and probably even the Chinese, if I can dig deep enough, all believe that they need to be the ones sitting somewhere on the seat of the throne of David. There's a lot in here, guys. There's a lot going on. And according to the Bible, there is one man who will walk into the city of Jerusalem at some point and walk into the temple of God in front of the whole world and tell everyone that he is God. There will be 3.5 years. Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot. There's 3.5 years of fake peace and then sudden destruction. We're going to keep an eye on all of this taking place. And now that you hear and you know what? I can lecture on this forever, but I think I went long enough for this video. My point was, I think sometimes people have no idea the big scope of it. Well, what about the Jews? Because I just shared with you everything about Jordan and how they feel, and the Palestinians and how they feel, and these others. Well, the Jews have been there since Abraham. Melchizedek was there and met with Abraham. This is the Holy Land. It is Canaan land. It is the Promised Land. And it took Joshua coming into the land to help conquer the Nephilims and take it from the Rephaims and Nephilims There's even a street in Jerusalem called Rephaim Street. It's right at the very end of what's called the Valley of Blood. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's right at the end of the Hinnon Valley. So there's just so much proof that the Holy Land plays such an powerful role in today's world. Give your life to Jesus Christ, folks. I mean, repent and be born again and be ready. Be rapture ready. Be prepared for the coming of the Lord. Maybe I'll just play a song here just to say, when you think of Ezekiel 38 and 39 that's coming, you have to first think about Ezekiel 37 and how God said he would resurrect and make this nation a nation of Israel. 3,000 years he said Israel, this would be the land of Israel. What are the odds against all these other factors that it would be? And it is there. It is there. And it's going to be there. Jesus preached there, taught there, healed people there, crucified there, rose from the grave there, ascended to heaven there, and is coming back there. It is incredible when I think about all the things that God has done. It really is. It's amazing to me. Hang on, I'm getting phone. My phone is went insane on me here for a second here, or I don't know what I'm doing. Which is it? Maybe both. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Do I? I don't know. Have I lost control of my own phone? I feel like I have. What? I don't know what I'm doing. 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 What? I'm headed to Israel. I'm leaving Sunday. We'll be reporting from the Holy Land every day to you. With everything going on, it couldn't be a more important time to be there than now. God set this up. Saturday was silent, and surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? And Friday's disappointment is Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of her dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Your resurrection power, it runs in my veins too. I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Right there. Jerusalem, right there.
My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elisha if there's anything that He can do.
Right there is Damascus.
Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit in you, and I will place you in your own land, and you shall live. I will place you in your own land. You shall live, 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 live.
Ezekiel 38, 37. First it's Ezekiel 37, the rebirth of Israel and the resurrection power.